Hello and welcome to The Edge, where we'll take an in-depth analysis of today's top stories by looking beyond the edge. We'll bring you not just the facts, but also deep insights into the topics with expert opinions and social media reactions. Let's make a start with our look beyond the edge. Palestinians in Al Bustan neighborhood are facing the threat of displacement following the ethnic cleansing policy by the Israeli occupation in Sinwan. Palestinian families have received self-demolition orders by the Israeli Magistrates Court, so they have only two choices: self-demolition of their houses or demolition by the Israeli occupation forces. Now, will these evacuations continue, or is there an end in sight to the misery faced by Palestinians? Britain's government is investigating how secret defence documents outlining the movements of a warship that led to Russia firing warning shots off the Crimean coast were found at a bus stop in England. What will be the outcome of the investigation, and what will be the effects of the latest tension in the region? And Turkey is building an alternative waterway to the Bosphorus Strait, aiming to create a new intermodal hub in the region, as Turkey is a hot point for national and international shipments and ports and maritime activities. What is the geostrategic and geoeconomic importance of Canal Istanbul project? These are the top three stories that we'll be taking a look at today from Beyond the Edge. Let's get started. Sheikh Jarrah is home to around 2,800 Palestinian residents and includes many diplomatic missions and well-known landmarks. Our following infographic gives the main historic facts. Around 19 Palestinian houses located in Sinwan's Al Bustan neighborhood could be demolished at any time after the deadline of self-demolition set by the Israeli authorities ended on Sunday.
At any time, 19 of the 100 Palestinian homes located in the Al Bustan neighborhood in the town of Silwan could be demolished by Israeli occupation forces, as the deadline for self-demolition ended on Sunday. Israeli authorities gave 21 days as a time limit to the Palestinian residents to either demolish their own homes themselves or face the demolition of Israeli forces. Around 1,500 people living in more than 100 buildings live in the Al Bustan area. 63% of them are under the age of 18. Nearly 130 Palestinian families face the destruction of their homes to make way for an Israeli religious theme park where the Israelis believe King David had a garden in biblical times. Families living in the neighborhood are faced with uncertainty as they wait to see what will become of their homes, when they will be demolished, and whether they will be forced to live as homeless people in their own homelands. It still remains unclear as to how many homes the forces would be demolishing at first. The Al-Bustan neighborhood lies towards the south of the wall of Jerusalem's Old City near Silwan. Not only Silwan is under threat of demolition, but also several other neighborhoods in the occupied West Bank face the threat of demolition and forced evictions. The neighborhoods facing the same threat include Sheikh al-Jarrah, Beita, and Beit Dajan. The Palestinians in occupied Jerusalem face approximately 33,000 demolition decisions. In contrast, the occupation government allows the construction of tens of thousands of settlement units. It is a comprehensive Judaization war in which conventional weapons are not used, but rather the confiscation of homes and pressure on the population to leave by force. The apartheid policy by Israel against Palestinians in Jerusalem aims to change the legal and historic nature of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Israel is aiming for a demographic change of Palestine by ethnically cleansing the people who are raising their voices to save their homes, their homeland, and Jerusalem itself.
Several days of protests have taken place in the occupied West Bank following the death of a prominent critic of President Mahmoud Abbas. Palestinian security officers have clashed with protesters who have marched through Hebron and Ramallah.
Palestinians are calling for a change of government as they march through Hebron and Ramallah, protesting the death of Nizar Banat. Banat was one of President Mahmoud Abbas's most prominent critics, who died after being arrested by security forces. The crowd marched through streets waving Palestinian flags and pictures of Banat and calling for an end to Abbas's 16-year rule. The Palestinian Authority deployed security forces to confront protesters who took to the streets of Ramallah in the West Bank. The officers, some wearing riot gear, some in plain clothes, clashed with protesters. Officers fired tear gas and used clubs to hit unarmed protesters and also journalists. There were no official figures on how many people were arrested or injured.
The killing of Banat is the tip of the iceberg. It hides a mountain of corruption and the absence of elected organizations. We want total political reform.
Banat had been arrested by security forces who broke into a relative's house where he was staying in the early hours of Thursday and reportedly hit him repeatedly with a metal rod before arresting him. After conducting an autopsy, Independent Commission for Human Rights said that he suffered blows to the head. Abbas's popularity has plummeted since the 85-year-old was elected president in 2005, with many Palestinians facing economic hardship and complaining of widespread corruption. Hamas, which rules the Gaza Strip, urges Palestinians to rise up and put a final end to the widespread violation by the Palestinian Authority against the freedoms and rights. Abbas's government, which exercises limited self-rule in the West Bank, reject accusations that they are corrupt and they arrest people for their political views, denying torture.
We are not requesting things that are not written in the Constitution. We are not calling for a state on Mars. We want a Palestine that protects the rights of its people.
The Palestinians in occupied Jerusalem face approximately 33,000 demolition decisions, while the occupation government allows the construction of tens of thousands of settlement units. The long-running campaign by Jewish settlers to expel Palestinians from their homes still continues. It seems as if the violence against Palestinians will also continue, but we still hope that the reaction from the international community might stop the atrocities against Palestinians. For now, let's move on to our next topic to discuss the recent tensions between Russia and the United Kingdom. Relations between the United Kingdom and Russia have been strained over recent years. Our following infographic has more. Classified Ministry of Defence documents containing details about the HMS Defender warship and the British military have been found at a bus stop in southeast England in Kent.
The BBC reported that classified documents from Britain's Defence Ministry containing details about a British warship and Russia's potential reaction to its passage through the Black Sea have been found at a bus stop in southern England. The BBC said that the documents, almost 50 pages in total, were found in a soggy heap behind a bus stop in Kent early on Tuesday morning by a member of the public who wanted to remain anonymous. The Ministry of Defence said that it had been informed last week of an incident in which sensitive defence papers were recovered by a member of the public. The BBC reported that the documents, which include emails and PowerPoint presentations related to British warship the Defender, which last week sailed through waters off the Crimean Peninsula, which Moscow annexed from Ukraine in 2014. Russia said that it had fired warning shots and dropped bombs in the path of the ship to chase it out of what the Kremlin says are its territorial waters, but which Britain and most of the world say belong to Ukraine. The BBC said that the documents suggested the ship's mission was conducted in the expectation that Russia might respond aggressively.
I'm joined now from Birmingham in the United Kingdom by Scott Lucas, who's a political analyst and professor of American Studies at the University of Birmingham, and from Ankara in Turkey by Ivan Starodubtsev, who's a Russian expert. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me again here today on The Edge. Scott, I want to come to you first. The very embarrassing incident, defence documents have been found behind a bus stop in Kent, of all places. What can you tell us about this? How did they come to be lost, and what are the implications of it?
Oh, if I knew exactly what happened, the British government would want to be talking to me right now.
What a shame.
Because we don't actually know. There's a lot of speculation, conspiracy theory. Was this simply someone who was on his way home from work or her way from work and mislaid the documents? Was it someone who had lifted the documents from the Ministry of Defense, possibly to hand them off to someone else, and the drop didn't work and they got left behind? We simply don't know at this moment. It adds a little bit of headline, as it were, question marks and possibly a bit of daring do to what's the fundamental issue here, which is this UK naval mission, really through international shipping lanes, really to test the idea that Crimea is part of Russia. This is not just simply a UK exercise, by the way. It's being framed as that. But this was also something that was sort of foreshadowed by moves from the G7 and from the United States, which is that the Russia claim to Crimea, which is recognized by very few countries in the world, especially the military occupation, there would be ways of sort of highlighting this without direct confrontation with Moscow.
So we're yet to find out where they came from. Well, what's the reaction from Russia? Do you know, Ivan? It seems that the defence apparatus in the United Kingdom is rather sloppy to have allowed these security documents to be left behind a bus stop.
This accident looks like a bit beginning of a comedy movie, because just very nice start. But unfortunately, the incident itself brings us to a quite dangerous point. I do not think that Russia just somehow was so much affected by this news. Nobody actually get any new information from these documents. From the very beginning, it was clear that this ship intention was to enter the territorial waters of Russia and to test Russia. There was no doubt on that. So no big excitement about such a case. But as I said, it could be even funny, but unfortunately the incident itself is quite dangerous and brings us to a quite dangerous point, especially just right in the beginning, at the beginning of the military training in the Black Sea, the Sea Breeze 2021.
So the cat's out of the bag, so to speak. We could no doubt the Russians could guess what the British intentions were in much the way that the British were trying to guess, as we've seen from those documents, what the Russian reaction to those things would be. So in a sense, this is the game just continuing as normal. But Scott, are there any surprises in these documents? There were various scenarios mapped out, as one might expect them to be, perhaps, of what the Russian reaction would be to the ship sailing through, and yet the British, in the early reports, were seen to be going through there in all innocence.
Oh, I mean, let's be clear about a couple of things. First of all, in terms of the facts of the case, and then the analysis, which was included in the documents. And the facts of the case are, these are not Russian territorial waters. Russia has claimed these as territorial waters after annexing Crimea in 2014, but very few countries recognize that Russian annexation, especially as it was done at the point of a gun, the military occupation. So the idea that this was Russian territorial waters and the UK was provoking a confrontation with Moscow, let's use the academic word poppycock. What was happening here, and let's be analyst, is that the UK and behind it, certain European countries and the United States were testing the Russian reaction to a UK warship going through international waters, or international shipping lane, I should say, in what it claims are Ukrainian territorial waters. Would the Russians simply do nothing? Would the Russians intervene? How firmly would they intervene? And of course, this did become a test case of what the Russians would do. It was a test case in two ways, and this is what the document highlights. First of all, the Russians did fire not a warning shot, but they fired cannon behind the warship to say, we're here. They buzzed it and monitored it with aircraft. They did not, by the way, as Russia claimed, fire fragmentation bombs in front of the ship. However, this was the second part of this. It was interesting not only what the Russians did militarily, but how they then spun this with information and even disinformation to try to make it look like, look, we're the tough guys here, as well as being the victims of this. It's the UK that is provoking confrontation. All of that is part of what we might call the information dimension of this conflict, this tension, which involves Russia, Ukraine, and Crimea. And so it was, to be honest with you, it was an intelligence gathering exercise, a very open intelligence gathering exercise.
Is it as simple as that, Ivan? The Russian embassy from the UK said, quote, HMS Defender turns HMS Provocateur. How does Russia see the territorial waters here?
Actually, I believe that the British or whatsoever acceptance or not acceptance of these waters like a territorial water of Russia is not important. There is no important in the eyes of Russian opinion because, I mean, neither Great Britain or another country may change this situation. Unless they may change this situation, this is not important. Let me say very clearly. This is a public opinion in Russia, and Russia will stand that it is its territorial water, and I believe that after this accident, the engagement rules of Russia in the Black Sea will be changed accordingly. This was kind of a demonstration, and 2 times Russia warned the destroyer Defender about that the warning bombing and the warning fire will be opened. The next time maybe it will be warned just 1 time. We don't know. But Russia will play more hard in the Black Sea because what we see, the rising amount of provocation in the Black Sea. And just a few hours ago there was a news that the British patrol ship was also forwarded to help, how they named this mission, to help the destroyer Defender. So I believe that the necessary conclusion will be drawn and Russia will act more active and more hard in the Black Sea, especially when it is very much clear that it is tested for the reaction. I believe that next time the reaction may be harder.
Well, one of the great risks in all of this, I fully understand how countries test each other, and this is something that the various trials at sea and the various military exercises are doing to show off capabilities, not just to practice, but also with the awareness that others are looking on to see, well, this is what we're able to do. Now, one of the frightening things is that that wars very often come out of accidents. It just takes one person, one human being, one officer to make a small mistake, and things can get totally out of control. Scott, do you think that there is the risk of this happening in the Black Sea?
Oh, I mean, there's always a risk when you have militaries in the same area that someone overreacts, someone fires aggressively. I don't think in this case, however, despite the chest thumping that we just heard from our other analysts, that this is going to be an intentional ratcheting up of this. In other words, yeah, Russia thumps its chest and says, we could be even tougher next time. You know, it might be war on one side. In other words, we're going to fire directly on the British warship. Let's be very honest and direct here. If Russia does that, they're not just at war with Britain, or at least a confrontation with Britain. They will bring in most European countries.
Scott, I'm just going to interrupt you. We just got a slight problem with your sound. I'll be back to you in just one moment. Ivan, let me throw the same question to you. Now, the British ship went within 12 miles, which is, what, about 18 kilometres of Crimea, which is on the boundary of the international waters. Does it not call for some sort of patience between the militaries of countries that are on the boundaries of international waters to avoid some sort of international incident?
You know, we may speak about patience when there is no intention to test each other, because it is very clear that in this situation there was a trial on Russia reaction, how Russia will react. And when there is such an intention, and there is just Black Sea, the sunny weather, and I believe that the Great Britain is a great country with a navy experience, so they do know how to travel in the sea, and they know how to use the maps. So it was not a mistake, and it didn't happen occasionally. So I believe that the matter of fact is that the countries should behave themselves more responsible, understanding all possible consequences of their steps, because when Russia accepts this water as their territory, Russia will react. It's very clear. So I believe that is why we heard such statements from the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia, and the British ambassador was called to our ministry. Still, we have a British ambassador in Moscow, but it is not a fact that he will not be invited to leave the country. We don't know.
So the chance for diplomacy, in a sense, there also the window is closing. If these territories, we must agree, are disputed because Russia has one viewpoint, and the United Kingdom, as well as several other countries, have a different one. So what needs to be done to resolve this impasse?
I believe that, first of all, I would like to invite everybody who is speaking on Crimea just to once visit Crimea, because I spent a lot of years in my childhood, in my student times. I spent long years in Crimea. I was there when it was the Soviet Union time, when it was Ukrainian time, when it was Russian time. And I believe that there is no such a case like a Russian occupation of Crimea. Everybody who claims opposite, I believe that first of all, they should say that I visited, I saw by myself, and it is really like that. And I believe that after such a visit, maybe their position will be changed. And if we remember the year 2014, if I'm not mistaken, the Ukrainian Cup, when the legal president was turned over, and actually it was hardly supported by the Great Britain and by the West. Why they recognized this government and everything what had happened afterwards? It was just the result of what was done that time. Russia was squeezed, or Russia should react. This is also the reality. And what we now see, the West is going on this policy on squeezing Russia. But I believe that the result might be quite dramatic, unfortunately.
So, Scott, I was just asking Ivan to help us understand how the disagreements on the sovereignty of Crimea might be resolved. What's your perspective on that?
Well, there's a legal case, and then there's the practical case where we are now. Legally, this is a Russian occupation. Russia has no international standing to have gone in and annexed Crimea, which was part of Ukraine. There has never been a referendum where Crimeans have voted to join Russia. They have voted for autonomy and independence, which is an interesting question to pursue. But legally, in other words, and you just heard the Russian line there, come visit Crimea, it's all wonderful, it's all lovely. Now, that's just more propaganda. To cut through the propaganda, however, there is the reality. And that is, even the most ardent activist to rejoin Crimea with Ukraine, those who were involved in what was the change of government by largely peaceful people in 2014, would say, we don't expect the Russians to leave Crimea. We don't expect a battle for Crimea. Crimea, in other words, practically will be Russian territory by force majeure for some time to come. So what do we do diplomatically? That is the practical situation. It is in Russia's basically gift to decide how long they want to continue this. But if they continue an occupation of Crimea, and if they continue to try to instigate trouble in Ukraine, as they have tried to do, then there will be repercussions. They will not be military repercussions. There could be economic repercussions. There could be repercussions, as it were, in international public opinion. In other words, Russia could be isolated for its position, but the best thing to do right now is in effect, to draw lines. Russia did what it did in 2014. It was not legal. It was forceful, but it has been done. No one wants to go to war at this point, but nor should Russia think that it can turn the Black Sea into a Russian lake and deny the passage of ships in international shipping lanes from other countries.
So that's a different perspective, Ivan. Should there be some sort of referendum to the people of Crimea?
I think the referendum was already done, and there is no need to repeat it once again. And as I said, what we hear from our Western partners is the comments about something which they never saw in their life. I would like to ask all of them again. Have they ever been in Crimea? Have they ever seen what was there and what is there now? And I'm pretty much sure, 100% sure, that another referendum will bring another result. But they will not be the one, because already in the constitution of the Russian Federation, the Crimea is a territory of the Russian Federation, so it will not be done. And here, what we see between me and our colleague from the Great Britain is just a copy of the debates which I believe we have between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation and the Great Britain. So no way, no result, no middle points are possible.
Well, the discussions will continue inevitably, and until they're resolved to everybody's satisfaction, which may or may not happen at any time soon. But what is important, gentlemen, is that all of our countries act responsibly and kindly to each other in solving their problems. And let's hope that there are no further escalations anywhere in the world, let alone the Black Sea. Thank you both for joining me here today on The Edge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Russia warned Britain and the United States against tempting fate by sending warships to the Black Sea and said that it will defend its borders using all possible means, including military force. Moscow also warned Britain that it will bomb British naval vessels in the Black Sea if what it calls provocative actions by the British Navy are repeated off the Crimean coast. It seems as if the recent tensions will continue in the coming days. Well, let us now move to our final topic to speak about Turkey's mega project, Canal Istanbul. Canal Istanbul will serve as an international waterway that will contribute to Turkey's logistical power and infrastructure by performing an important function in global maritime trade. Our following infographic has more about the mega projects. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan attended the groundbreaking ceremony for part of the country's mega project, Canal Istanbul, marking the occasion with a speech on its importance for Turkey's future.
Bugün ülkemizin gelişmesi, milletimizin güçlenmesi yolunda atılan adımlara bir yenisini daha ekliyoruz.
One of Turkey's biggest dreams has come true as desired. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan participated in a groundbreaking ceremony for Sazadere Bridge, part of Canal Istanbul project, on Saturday.
Kanal İstanbul projesiyle amacımız her şeyden önce İstanbul Boğazı ve çevresindeki vatandaşlarımızın can ve mal güvenliğini sağlamaktır.
President Erdogan underlined the socio-political, socio-economic and socio-cultural importance of the mega project.
Gemi trafiği yükünün hafifletilmesi, Boğaz'ın giriş ve çıkışındaki beklemelerin azaltılması, Boğaz'daki seyir zorluğundan kaynaklanan sıkıntıların ortadan kaldırılması da projenin amaçları arasında yer alıyor. Elbette ülkemizin küresel ticarette daha etkin rol oynaması, ulaştırma ve lojistik koridorlarından daha fazla pay alması ile diğer stratejik unsurları da bunlara eklememiz gerekiyor.
The Turkish leader also unveiled some more technical details about the proposed plan.
Kanalın uzunluğu 45 kilometre. Taban genişliği minimum 275 metre. Derinliği, küsuratı söylemiyorum, 21 metre olarak belirlendi. Bir başka ifadeyle 275 metre uzunluğa kadar petrol tankerleri ve 350 metre uzunluğa kadar olan konteyner gemileri bu kanaldan geçebilecek.
The Canal Istanbul project is projected to make a great contribution to Turkey both economically and socially.
Buradan geçecek gemilerden sağlanacak gelir ve proje kapsamındaki liman başta olmak üzere diğer unsurlardan elde edilecek kazançta Kanal İstanbul kendi kendini rahatlıkla finanse edecektir.
President Erdogan once again reiterated the Turkish government's determination to make Turkey great and more powerful in the international arena.
Türkiye'yi dünyanın en büyük 10 ekonomisi arasına sokmak, siyasi ve diplomatik gücümüzü zirveye çıkarmak, güvenliğimizi en geniş yorumla sağlamak için gece gündüz çalışmaya devam edeceğiz. Yatırım yaparak, üreterek, istihdamı artırarak, ihracatı yükselterek, büyümeyi sürekli kılarak, potansiyelimizi son sürat harekete geçirerek büyük ve güçlü Türkiye'yi hep birlikte inşa edeceğiz.
And I'm now joined live from Istanbul by journalist Hakkı Öcal. Hakkı, thank you so much for joining us today here on The Edge.
Thank you.
We've just been listening to Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan describe some of the benefits of Canal Istanbul. But how would you describe the main benefits?
I mean, personally, and we are living on the Bosphorus, and whenever I look out to the sea, to the Bosphorus, all I see is that either a ship going either to Black Sea or to Marmara. I mean, it is like a highway. Every minute, every second, there is a ship passing by. And it is not easy sea passage to navigate. There are sharp turns in it, and it is very dangerous. Sometimes when you are having a tea or something on the shore, you see this huge, incredibly immense vessel coming at you and turning some 50 meters away from you to left to right. It is dangerous. I mean, it definitely is dangerous. I remember for weeks, for months, there was this Romanian tanker burning on the Bosphorus, and all the time it is dangerous. Not only this, right now, what I understood from President's presentation here is that there is a long queue for the ships to pass either way. You have to wait there, and waiting is very expensive for ships. I mean, if I didn't misunderstand, I mean, they say almost you spend $10,000 a day when you are waiting to pass. So it is expensive for the ships. It is not right for Turkey to impose such restrictions on the people. And it is not good on trade. I mean, these Black Sea people, Black Sea nations, the people around the Black Sea is developing young states, and they are developing every minute, and they need more things to buy. They need to export more things. So we are not doing a nice thing to our neighbors on the Black Sea, holding their traffic.
In fact, let's just before we talk about the new project particularly, but on the Bosphorus, let me. We both know it very well and have enjoyed sitting beside it, as you say, drinking tea. But for somebody who hasn't been to Istanbul, they won't realise that it's actually a very narrow strait in the centre of the city, going through the centre of a metropolitan city.
Exactly.
And on the case of the ships queuing, you've seen them. In fact, if you look out towards the Marmara Sea, you can see tankers and cargo ships just sitting on the horizon. That is the queue. Dozens and dozens and dozens of ships waiting to come through.
Yes.
But what can you say, the type of vessels that come through? Again, people may be used to the River Thames in London or the Seine in France. Right. They think of just small ships, but yes, there are small ships and motorboats and so on, but also there are huge ships as well going through, aren't there?
They are. I mean, if you remember that ship that blocked the Suez Canal recently, that ship or similar one to that one was passing through the Bosphorus, and we were watching it amazingly. Sometimes we have such huge ships that you cannot see the other side of Istanbul. They block everything. I mean, they are big, they are huge. Sometimes they have to cut or lower their chimneys so that they can pass under the bridges we have on Bosphorus now. In any way, put it in any way, A, it is dangerous. B, it is not nice to the Black Sea people. We have to open a better channel so that they can get their ships easily, early, and cheap, less expensively.
So there are safety concerns as well as economic concerns involved here, and as you said, aesthetic concerns too. So this new canal passing slightly to the west of the Bosphorus, this will remove many of those problems.
It will, and it will also bring certain things in addition. You know, Andy, you are living in it. Istanbul is an old city. It is very historical city. It was built a long time, even before Jesus Christ. I mean, it is a very old town. And right now, we are squeezing 16 million people in Istanbul. With this new channel, we are going to have new residential areas, business areas. And for the gentrification purposes of Istanbul, you have to move at least that many thousand, 100,000, they say almost 200,000 residential buildings out of the town. A, they are old, B, they are not earthquake safe, and they are crowding the town. So with this new living area around the channel, you will be able to move residential areas and new businesses and new factories, new development areas. So it is going to serve this second purpose for the town.
Now, you've just raised one of the important issues, which is about the threat of earthquakes in Istanbul, which is a very real one. And alongside that comes those of our viewers who've been looking at the international press will see that there are some criticisms about this project, which is inevitable for any project. There will be criticisms. How do you react to those?
First of all, I feel safe as a person living in Istanbul after looking at, as a journalist, looking at the environmental safety report the government provided. It is a safe report. It is a very sound report. There are more than 200 people signed it, all sorts of scientists, professors and technicians studied it almost for more than 5 years, and now there is a very sound report at hand, and I feel safe. Second, the objections that this seaway is going to make that side of Istanbul heavier than the other side, and it's going to what, tumble? It is funny. I mean, some people say that. I even read this lines in the Guardian of United Kingdom. I mean, they are very, I don't know, funny things. Mm-hmm. Nothing that sort of is going to happen. I mean, it is people, there are many experts, they sit down and they looked at it. Second thing, which could be serious from political perspectives, is that now the existing Istanbul, Bosphorus, and Dardanelles, Çanakkale straits are run according to or managed by an international convention.
Absolutely.
Montreux Agreement. Now, this new seaway, sea channel, is not going to be covered with it. However, existing Turkish government, made an international declaration, which is binding for anybody who is coming to power after this one, that Turkey is going to observe Montreux rules on this seaway too. That is very important, and that is very, very good thing to do. I mean, right now, even nowadays, we are going to have this very unwanted thing going to happen in Black Sea, a Western naval maneuver in the middle of the Black Sea, and Black Sea countries are not totally agree about its necessity, and well, it's going to happen. it will happen.
So the rights to shipping that have existed for most of the past century will continue to exist. The Bosphorus will be made more beautiful, and indeed the new canal, I'm sure itself, will also become a tourist attraction, and we can go and drink tea there as well. I hope in the future.
We will do it.
I look forward to that very much.
Enough.
Haki Hocel, unfortunately, we've
sir.
run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today here on The Edge.
Thank you.
Canal Istanbul is one of Turkey's most strategic mega projects, meant to stem the rising risk posed by ships carrying dangerous goods via the Bosphorus, especially oil tankers. It's expected to generate significant economic value by reducing transit periods and costs, in addition to passage fees. Now, our analysts have provided their insights on today's top stories. Let's have a roundup of what they had to say. Before closing our programme, let's take a look at social media to hear your voices and reactions to today's top story, shared with the hashtag #SaveSilwan. #SaveSilwan on Twitter. And Lillian Corbyn says, homes are being demolished, families are being displaced. This is atrocious. And Mohammed Smiri says, let's not stop talking about Silwan as it's facing ethnic cleansing by Israeli settlers. And D-Rose says, remember Sheikh Jarrah had a countdown too, but they're still terrorizing the residents every single day until they can slowly steal their homes without backlash on social media. The same will happen with Silwan. And let's now take a look at our video of the day, which calls on people to raise their voices against the demolition in Silwan.
This is the story of Silwan. It is located in Palestine. Why you don't know? Demolition of their homes. They've been given 21 days. They're forced to do or lose and pay. They all need your voice. Share your voice to stop the crime. Share your voice to save the world. This is the story of Silwan. It is located in Palestine. Why you don't know? Demolition of their homes. They've been given 21 days. They're forced to do or lose and pay. They all need your voice. Share your voice to stop the crime. Share your voice.
And that's all for this episode of The Edge with me, Andy Boynes. Stay tuned as we'll be back tomorrow with more in-depth analysis on the top stories and a look beyond the edge.